What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Learn with Lex. Today we're going to be talking about bounty builders. As you can see here, we're playing the Bounty 22. So normally play a little bit lower, but I felt like this was a nice buy-in level to show you guys as well. Also, this is kind of perfect because it has 50 big blind stacks. So I felt like at the time of registering, this tournament's in the perfect stage. Of course, I'm going to teach you guys a little bit about bounties, how to interact with when you want to call, or what stacks you want to play versus, etc. Don't worry, there's not going to be a whole lot of technical poker lingo. As usual in the Learn with Lex series, we keep it pretty simple and down to earth because it's important to think about poker logically and not just spew around terms. You hear so many things everywhere from equity, EV, and merging and everything, and I want to teach you guys the right thing. Now, in the top left, you can see the runtime of the tournament, and I'm going to talk to you guys about every single spot. Alright, so we have pocket threes here. What's nice to see is that the big blind is a stack that could be very interesting to us. They have 17.5 big blinds. If they go all in, we're calling with any pair here, really. And I just want to remind you guys of something that we talked about in this series in the past. If the effective stack, so that could be that whenever people say effective stacks, it means what you're technically playing for, right? So if both these players would have 17 big blinds here, which means the effective stack is 17 big blinds, because then it doesn't matter if I have 100, 200 big blinds. The max we're playing for is 17 big blinds. Then I would have just jammed, but the small blind has a relatively big stack, so I'm not going to do that. Very dry boards, we're going to be good often. Now, a lot of times you guys might think, hey, I'm going to be good often, so let's get to the river. But think about, what if the turn is a 9 and they bet? Can't get to the river now, can we? So it's really important if you feel comfortable with your hand, if you think it's the best hand right now, it's very good oftentimes to just bet it. And this is what people call bet for protection, because then, you know, somebody doesn't get a free turn card, they don't get to outdraw you, and they also get to bluff you less often. I don't really see any value in betting again. I'm betting the flop mostly to get value from king highs and ace highs. I don't really see the point of betting the turn, because now I think that I'm getting a little bit too much in losing value versus a jack or a 6. Rivers and ace, that's probably the worst card that we could see here, apart from a jack or a 7, but ace is probably the worst cards. I mean, the only way I'm winning here is if they have king or queen high, and that's a little bit of a stretch, you know, so just gonna throw it away. Obviously, there's, you know, you can always, it's always very important to also make the consideration to turn a hand into a bluff, but you know, since we talked about them having an ace very often, it's not like we have a massive advantage. And that's an important thing. You want to make big bluffs on cards that give you an advantage. And I don't think the ace necessarily gives us an advantage there. Over here, we're going to call with queen 10 suited. Very good hands. We really want to flat call with our suited broadways here very often. We can even call some re-raises from behind. Hand plays really well with more people. So we definitely want to get in the mix here. Okay, so we flop a flush draw here. The rest of the table got out. And we hit the flush. So now what we want to do is we want to start figuring out a bet size that where we maximize our value. How do we maximize our value? We get our whole fucking stack in. So if we bet 3.8 and they call, the pot on the river will be 17 and we'll have 27. That doesn't work. So we're going to size up a little bit. We're going to bet 8. Now if they call, there'll be 27 in the pot and I can go all in for 22. So make sure that once your stack gets to the point where you can get stacks in, that your betting on streets is appropriate to have a good river bet. It's very important. You can't just think about what's best in this moment, let's suck them in, and then they call and you're like, okay, but now I kind of want to go all in, but you have 2 times spots, so now you can't anymore. So it's very important in that scenario to bet big with that hand. And the nice thing is it also works best for your bluffs, because then you have more full equity. All right, so here we're going to raise under the gun with ace-8. The only ace that we don't open under the gun is ace-deuce suited, and even from this position we start opening ace-deuce suited at least half the time. So all right, so whenever we want to call for bounties, there's a few things we should do, right? First of all, we check the bounty. Okay, so he has a 1.5 starting bounty. That's pretty nice, but very important that you guys don't just close your eyes and look at bounties and start drooling. It's very important that you look at the situation here. I'm raising from under the gun. This is the strongest position to raise from. they're jamming the next spot over. With all these people behind them, it's very clear that ace-8 is not going to do too well because they're not jamming a hand like ace-6 suited there, right? They're probably just folding, maybe flat calling, which they shouldn't do, but you're going to see a lot of flat calling. I think I'm just going to run into issues. The best thing I can hope for is a hand like king-queen suited, and that still has 44% versus me. So, yes, bounties are worth chips, but that still doesn't make you know, make the math okay in that situation. Okay, immediately into the next hand. So they make it 3 times the big blind. Definitely something you want to be wary of. It makes a huge difference what you want to call from the big blind if they make it 2 big blinds or 3 big blinds. But queen 9 suited is a very good hand, so we're just gonna call with that one. Flop middle pair, no real reason to check raise. We still have a nice stack. This is pretty good. Shows like they're not necessarily that interested in the pot. You know, it's a hard board to play against the big blind. We're going to be up against some high card hands, of course. Be wary if you play against good players. They can still have a hand like Jack 10 that plays good on multiple streets. Now, I'm pretty confident that we're going to have the best hand enough of the time. Could run into King 9, Ace 9, or a hand like Jack 10, like I said, but none of those hands are really going to raise. I'm just going to go for a small value bet. I definitely beat some of the 9s. You could have a hand like pocket 8s, pocket 6s, hero call with some other hands. We even beat some 9x. So, fine hand. Make sure you don't bet too big because then you're just not going to get called enough when you have weak hands. And you can mix it up by doing it a little bit with like trip 7s, you know, to try and bait a bluff. Alright, pocket 5s, we have 40 bigs. Whenever you play a hand or you're curious to play a hand, let's say we would have gotten a hand here that I might want to fold. Always scan the table. You could be doing something else. You could have gotten a beer somewhere. You could have been paying attention to Netflix. A hand could have happened where somebody got short down to 1 or 2 big blinds. It's so important to always scan the table before you play a hand, you know, in bounty builders. Bit crazy to bet this flop. It's very likely somebody hit it, so we're just going to give up immediately. Okay, so interesting spot now. A bit small. It's a little bit tempting. There's a big chance I would have bet ace-jack on the turn though, so I'm just gonna fold this hand. Obviously we can represent a lot of strong hands still. 10s, ace-jack, you know. Even though we miss completely, always keep thinking till the river, but we're gonna fold. Okay, so we have king 8 here. We're gonna call in the big blinds. Thing to note is that the button made it 2.3 big blinds. Or 2.2, whatever. It's definitely important to realize that. We're just gonna continue with the call. This is one of those spots where in my head I immediately know that I want to call 2 streets and then evaluate what's happening. The ace is obviously a pretty bad card, but we'll see what happens. Gonna continue. It's a small bet. The size of the bet dictates a lot of what we want to do here. So we're just gonna continue. It's a very big chance that they're just like betting a hand like ace-9 and want to get value from a king, and now they're going to check back because they don't want to run into a jack or whatever. So we'll see what happens, but yeah. And that's absolutely fine, right? This is also a stab they might take when they have a hand like 10-9 or, you know, a hand like queen 9 or something that blocks some of the good stuff. Over here, I'm going to limp, and we're going to go all in. I'm kind of baiting out them wanting to play for my bounty. Had I been this bigger stack, I would have raised for value. But now, you know, I'm getting into the territory where people start just open ripping ace highs and hands that they like, etc. And I do really well against all of those hands. Even if they raise and I limp raise all in, they're going to call me with most ace highs, etc. So, all right, so I'm going to bet again on the turn. I think a lot of times on the flop they'll have a hand like 10-9, maybe a hand like 10-7 that they call with, or 8-9, 8-7, you name it really. They could even have a worse jack as well. I don't really want to give a free card on this board. Plus, when you play small blind versus big blind, you have so many hands that I can't just immediately say, oh, this fucking guy has a flush. You know, so you have to remember that when you play a really big group of hands, what people refer to as a wide range of hands, when you have a really wide range of hands, you want to also protect your hands a little bit. Ace-jack is still a very strong hand on the board, so keep that in mind. Okay, over here we're gonna go multi-way, 8-6, have to do it. Doesn't flop anything. It's very unlikely that we're getting dominated by hands. Can still flop well, can flop straights. I'm a short stack, so I'm not gonna make huge mistakes. Unfortunately, this is not it. Also, you guys asked me in these, we would definitely open King 7 if we also had 50 big blinds. But we don't, and then also it opens up the possibility, if we open our weakest hands when we get short stack, we're going to get more pushback from the blinds because they see this bounty and they're going to want to have it. So if we have a 50 big blind stack, that doesn't happen, and we can go more to our original opening ranges, right? If you ever want to know opening ranges, bbcpoker.com has an insane amount of charts. Check it out there. There's a lot of the material that you can use to study yourself. Over here, I don't necessarily like the fact that we have a short stack bounty. I don't feel like I can really play well multi-way. There's going to be too much action here. One of the disadvantages is also that these players cover the opener, so they have a lot of incentive to play against us both. And this is the deeper level that bounty builders offer, right? You know your ranges from regular play, or at least you're learning those, and then you have to deviate from that in bounty builders. What's happening on the table? Who's short? Why is somebody raising there? Why might they be limping? Oh, hey, wait, there's a 3 big blind stack across the table with a bounty. Do they cover us both? Like, how short is my stack? Is it easy to win my bounty? Like, these are all questions you should ask yourself. And if you do that often, you actually start being able to just navigate through these spots. And then you can start throwing away hands like the ace-3 suited that you might normally play. Because that hand doesn't do as well when more people start playing. What if somebody with ace-9 off thinks, oh, well, fuck it, there's a short stack bounty in there. I'm just going to call and see a flop. That's a disaster for us, right? Because now all of a sudden when we hit an ace, there's more hands that we lose to. So the hand value of ace-3 goes down, the more people that are interested in the pot there. Okay, so we're super short. We can definitely come along here with the deuce-9. We're going to do that. We don't flop anything though, but the value of these hands is definitely intact when you're short stack. So make sure as you keep playing your suited hands. We got 8-1 there on a call. The one disadvantage, of course, is a deuce is not good. But if there's plenty of boards that are relatively good for us. Also, you guys ask me sometimes in these situations how often I win some of these tournaments, right? It's like somebody's trying to create a gotcha moment. But I usually stream for 12, 13 hours or whatever, between 11 and 13 hours on Sunday. This is what I record on Monday morning. After this recording, I always go home. So, I honestly just don't have time because I have to drive to Belgium to play. I don't have time to just finish a big $1 all afternoon just to prove to you noobs that I can cash or win a tournament like that. So I just pick tournaments, I play during the duration, and when I'm done, I just sit out. When I'm done recording, if I have enough hands, I just sit out. And won't do any sitting out with this hand. We're gonna get called a lot, that's fine. There you go, jack high, ace high, absolutely beaut. Okay, that's a straight, too bad. Don't matter though, we had a good hand. We'll find a different table. Alright, I decided to later register tournaments where we're very short, so I want to see like if there's some other short stacks and maybe we can get into some I might get a standard short stacking spot. I will have a few hands left to complete this video. But a lot of the times in the bounty videos we have 40-50 bigs, but how do you navigate as a short stack? One thing I want to tell you, do not late register bounty builder tournaments. Reason being, I mean, you can late register to a certain extent, but you really want to look how many people are left. Look at this, only 180 people out of 660. That means that 480 people are out of the tournament. Those 480 people took part of their bounty and lost that. So that's out of the prize pool, right? So you're registering a tournament where a chunk of the prize pool is already missing that you are not competing for anymore. On top of that, because the average stack is higher, you're not going to be able to win a lot of the bounties that are in play because most people are going to have a bigger stack than you. So pretty awful to register very late in bounty builders. Keep that in mind. Okay, we're fortunate enough to get 8 big blinds on the button. Very likely to get called. We don't, fine, we go to 10 big blinds. And back-to-back shoving hands is exactly what you want to see in these bounty builders. So we're just going to go all in. Generally, what's really important to remember when you're short in bounty builders, don't go all in with your worst hands that you normally in a normal no-limit hold'em tournament would go all in with, because high card value is important. What happens in bounty builders? people are going to call you more often. What does that mean? The value of 5-6 suited, 10-8 suited goes down. The value of a hand like ace-8 offsuit goes up. Because having high card ace is very powerful, because in a bounty builder, people are going to call you when you get down to 9 big blinds, people will call you with king-8 offsuit. Now, them having king-8 offsuit means that a7 goes up in value, right? Because all of a sudden you're getting way more ace high versus king high versus queen high scenarios. So shove a little bit wider with your ace-x. And you know, hands like king 10 or king jack shove a little bit wider than you normally would, and with hands with like suited connectors and stuff, or even like deuces and threes, they don't do very well either. Shove a little bit tighter. That's a very important takeaway, I would say. Okay, king queen, perfect hand to go all in with. And here it shows how quickly you get called in bounty builders. Very nice. King 6, and this again shows this. I mean, this just proves what I was just talking about. This just proves that whole talk about why your good king highs go up in value, because you get called by king 6. And this is also the reason why ace-8 goes up in value, because ace-8 wins against king 6, right? So very important. And this is also why you shouldn't panic when you get low stack in bounty builders, because you're gonna get paid off anyway when you have a good hand. All right, so we have ace deuce suited here. I'm just gonna call. No real reason. I don't think that a stack from this size is really going to be too wide. Also, you know, ace is not that great of a hand, but of course we're going to call and see a flop with it. And see what happens. We're just going to fold. Sort of tempting. All ace high could be good, but remember, guys, remember what our read was before the flop, right? They raise from early position, strong. They raise from a shorter stack, strong, especially in a bounty builder. So then this board matches up with strength, right? All of the strong hands that you can think of pre-flop match up well with this board. So yes, we have ace high on a dry board. It's not something that we want to continue with though. And our discipline gets rewarded. We get pocket jacks. This is definitely one of those situations where it's just car keys on the table and go, you know. Very easy to just go to war with this hand. We're gonna jam. We're gonna jam. We're gonna jam. You might think, wow, that's pretty crazy, but this is just going to be, this is still going to be pretty loose. They have 12 big blinds, jack smashes that. And this player could just be hunting a bounty, right? And we have 20 big blinds, so what's the worst that can happen? If this is like an open, 2 big blinds, 20 big blind all in, 40 big blind isolation shove, then you start thinking about hands, right? But 2, 12, flat call 12, you know, no, sorry. Give him the jack, lol. Alright, so we win the side pot, which is nice. Sucks that we don't win the main, but, you know, obviously these stacks a lot of equity. That does conclude our bounty video. I hope that you guys learned something. I'm very happy that in this video we got to include a little bit of the short stacking in bounty builders and a little bit about the bankroll management. If you have any other questions, drop them down in the chat below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time for another episode of Learn with Lex. Peace out.